What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel. Got a very interesting game here next on the slate for you. We just previewed the Red River rivalry. Now we're going to be talking about a big showdown in the SEC West that's going to take place in College Station this year. We got the 11th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide going on the road against a team that, Nick Saban's a little all too familiar with in the Texas A&M Aggies. They're a team that's given the Crimson Tide some trouble in years past. Should be a fun one from College Station. We're going to preview it here in just a little bit. But before we do, I got to say thank you for all the support the channel has seen as of late, guys. It's just been absolutely crazy. But continue to show your support this college football season. Hit the subscribe button, ring the bell so you know when videos get uploaded this college football season. But there are more ways than that for you guys to help me support this channel. You guys are doing one of them right now just by watching the video, and you guys can do more by liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else you guys are willing and or able to do to help me support this channel, because really anything you guys are able to do means a lot to me. But enough about me, enough about that. That's out of the way. Let's talk about college football. Hey, remember what happened last time the Alabama Crimson Tide went into Kyle Field and hey, they came away with a loss. Game-winning field goal there from Texas A&M, and the Aggies are going to look to duplicate that exact same result here this season. But the Alabama Crimson Tide, a lot of doubters coming into this year, and a lot of doubters after that loss to Texas, and even after some other performances this year, they're starting to round into form. So let's go ahead and dive on into some of the stats that both of these teams have put up so far this season. When we talk about the Alabama offense, hey, it was not pretty early on, right? And this was a team that really kind of struggled to find their quarterback. Well, there's no doubt right now that it is Jalen Milroe. 838 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks so far on the year. Yeah, that stat line is not going to light the world on fire by any means, right? And it's not really going to be super impressive to people that maybe haven't been paying close attention to the Alabama Crimson Tide. But when I look at this Tide team and I look at Jalen Milroe, oh boy, he is really starting to round into form as a very, very dangerous playmaker for this team. But it doesn't start with him. This is a running back room that's loaded as well. Jace McClellan and Roydell Williams are running really well. Jalen Milroe has a couple really long runs, and he actually leads the team with 4 rushing touchdowns here on the season. Now, this is a wide receiver room that, while Jalen Milroe is still trying to develop his pass game as well, this is a wide receiver room that's going to have to take a pretty big role here in this game, and it's going to have to step up, and it's going to have to play really, really well. I'm talking about guys like Jermaine Byrne. I'm talking about guys like Isaiah Bond. I'm even talking about some of the tight ends that they have here, like Amari Nyblack and CJ Dupree. Kobe Prentice might have to take a bigger role here as well, right? This is an offense that, yes, is starting to round into form, but it definitely still has a long way to go, especially on the offensive line. They've allowed 20 sacks, I do believe. Yep, they've allowed 20 sacks so far this year. Milroe has been sacked 15 of those times. Offensive line has got to buckle down, has got to do a much, much better job. Defensively, what can we expect from the Alabama Crimson Tide? Well, this was a defense that really has been questioned too, right? And it goes back to that performance against Texas. Quinn Ewers really able to do kind of whatever he wanted against the Alabama Crimson Tide defense. That has not been the case, right? That has not been the case ever since that Texas game. This is an Alabama defense that really, in my opinion, kind of starting to take this season a little personally here, as they are generating pressure to the quarterback like they've always done. They are now starting to force those turnovers. The defensive or I should say the third down defense has really started to come along, really started to play well. And just defensively as a whole, 14.2 points per game allowed, not too shabby. They're allowing under 300 yards per game. And this team, just in general as a whole, really starting to come together. You got some absolute units in the linebacking room. Dallas Turner, Chris Braswell, among some really good players on the defensive line as well, starting to generate a whole lot of pressure for this Alabama team, and it's a defense that's just playing really, really well. But it's also a Texas A&M offense that's also playing really, really well. And despite not having Connor Weigman, Max Johnson has answered the call. He's stepped up and he's played really, really well. Again, Connor Weigman, to my knowledge, I believe out for the year. I may have that wrong, but I believe he's going to be out for the rest of the year. When you take a look at Max Johnson, though, I mean, he's played well so far this year. 436 yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception on 62.7% completion percentage. And the offense is seeming to hum no matter who is at quarterback. You got a pair of running backs in that room, and Le'Veon Moss and Amari Daniels that are running really, really well. Both of them averaging over 5.5 yards per carry. When you take a look at this wide receiver room, I mean, you got two guys that immediately stand out. Evan Stewart and Anais Smith. Those two guys have been playing really, really well. You have three other receivers there with over 100 receiving yards. Even a guy with 4 receiving touchdowns and 11 receptions, and a guy by the name of Noah Thomas. Third down offense has been really good. The offensive line has done a pretty solid job at limiting pressure. And for the most part, they really are taking care of the ball. Now, the turnovers, yes, could be cleaned up a little bit better. And that especially rings true when you take a look at the defensive side. That, look, the defense is doing everything right. Its third down defense is one of the best in the entire country. I believe third or fourth in the entire nation. If I have that wrong, I apologize. They're the best defense in terms of yardage in the SEC with 253, or I should say just over 250 yards per game allowed. Its rush defense has looked really, really good. That defensive front in general has looked really, really good as they're also generating pressure back to opposing quarterbacks. They have 20 sacks so far on the year. The secondary looks really, really good. 22 passes defended so far this season. But the one thing with this Texas A&M defense that, yes, they're playing aggressive, they're playing really, really well, that aggressiveness, that physicality is not turning into turnovers. And that's something that the Alabama Crimson Tide are getting. So that'll be an interesting storyline to watch here as Texas A&M, right now, -4 on the season in turnover margin. You have to be sharp and you have to win the turnover battle here against Alabama in this game, which leads me into my keys for the game, what to watch for, just kind of some things that I think you should keep in mind when you are watching this game. But we're going to start out with the Alabama Crimson Tide. We're going to start offensively with them. I've said it before, Jalen Milroe is a very dangerous playmaker. Yes, he was getting questioned after that game against Texas, and he even sat the game against USF, which just kind of showed how much that Alabama really needs Jalen Milroe on the field. Not only as a thrower, he's completed darn near 80% of his throws here over the past 2 games against a very good Ole Miss team and then against a Mississippi State team that, albeit is probably not as great as some people would have thought coming into the year, but still pretty solid team nonetheless. Jalen Milroe has really come on. He's a dangerous playmaker, not only with his arm, but especially with his legs as well. Texas A&M has got to be ready, and Jalen Milroe could definitely have this Aggie defense on their heels. But let's move over to the defensive side. The pass rush and secondary play, it, again, started to get questioned at the beginning of this season. Really got examined in the game against Texas and against USF, but the past 2 weeks here, they've really started to round in the form. They've really started to play really, really well, and I believe that trend upward will continue in this game. Maybe besides the Ole Miss Rebels, this is probably going to be one of the best tests that Alabama will have had so far this season. Well, and I guess also besides the Texas Longhorns, obviously, but I'm talking about in conference play. This is going to be a really tough environment for Bama to go into. It's going to be a really tough team to play. Pass rush and secondary will need to step up, and I think it'll continue to trend upward, and it's something that Bama has done so far this year. You got to win the turnover battle and win third downs. Texas A&M, again, one of the best third down defenses in the entire country. Can the offense convert, especially on these third and manageables like 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5, and be able to keep drives going and tire this A&M defense out? When we talk about the Texas A&M Aggies, though, can Max Johnson provide the big plays? Can he take care of the football? Again, turnovers have not necessarily been a huge problem for Max Johnson so far this year. Again, only 1 interception so far on the season. This team does have 3 picks. 2 of them belong to Connor Weigman, but he's not going to play anymore this year. 4 fumbles on the year, so the running back room ball carrier is going to have to take care of the ball. But the big plays, can they beat this? Can Max Johnson throw the ball downfield and beat the Alabama secondary? Can this Texas A&M rushing attack break into the second level? That's going to be something to watch. Can the Aggies provide those big plays offensively? You got to hound that Alabama offensive line. There are a lot of big boys up front for this Texas A&M defensive front, and a Bama offensive line that has really, really struggled this year. Definitely the weak point of that offense up to this point. Attack it, attack it, attack it, and attack it often. Send blitzes really in any situation you can. Yes, Jalen Milroe can get outside of the pocket, but that's the risk that you run, right? And you got to be able to lock down Milroe, I just said it, and limit the big plays from this Alabama team. Again, Jalen Milroe, very, very explosive option. He's definitely going to have a lot of his guys involved there. But it leads me into my prediction, and it led me into my prediction a little bit faster than I would have liked. But when I take a look here at the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Texas A&M Aggies, it's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be a really, really fun game to watch. But what it comes down to me is I think Alabama is going to get that one explosive offensive play that they need. And it might be a lot later than some Alabama fans would have liked, but they're going to get the explosive play they need. They're going to win the turnover battle. It's just something that Texas A&M has not been able to do this year, is win the turnover battle. They have not been creating turnovers. If the Aggies can do that in this game, you got a pretty good shot to win. Again, Alabama only the 2.5-point favorite, but I do believe that the Crimson Tide will do everything they need to do to be able to come out on top here on the road in College Station. 3:30 game on CBS should be a fun one. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And hey, as always, remember to play hard but tailgate harder. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.